Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb.
Hi everyone, it's Booze and Boards with Mickey and Jeb. I'm Jeb, he's Mickey.
Fan pick day, Jeb.
Fan pick day. It's been a long 5 episodes in the making, but now we have our fan pick episode. And if you watched the Dead of Winter game, you saw what game we picked. And what was that, Mickey?
Pandemic.
Ooh.
The only vote for Pandemic won.
Yep, the only vote for Pandemic. So, Pandemic is a game by Matt Leacock. And what else am I reading? Oh yeah, Z-Man Games. They're the publisher. So, and on the box it says International Award-Winning Game. So it's got to be great, right? We will find out.
This is a co-op game.
Co-op game.
And what are we trying to do?
We are trying to save humanity. 2 to 4 players, right?
2 to 4 players, and the goal is to eradicate
diseases.
4 diseases.
Yep. We'll show you in the setup everything, how to play, what the board looks like. Other than that, I think that's about it. We should just hop into the game, right?
Yep, and we'll see you back here for the review.
All right. All right, so the first thing we wanted to show everyone was the setup of the board. So the actual board itself, the things we want to point out are the cities. That's one of the main things. So as you can see, there's cities all over the world with different colors. The next thing is the infection track, or the infection rate track, and that keeps track of the infection rate, like it says.
Basically, that's going to tell you how many cards you flip over. You'll see that in a few bits.
Yep. The next thing is going to be the infection draw and discard pile. So it's pretty much the infection deck is placed there, and any discarded cards go there. After that is the outbreak indicator. So down here you can see it goes from 0 to skull and crossbones, which I think you would find out that's death. After that is the cures discovered area. So there's a place on the board for the 4 diseases, and you can...
Can we see this down here, Jim?
Yep, you can see it. You place your little vials when you
cure it. You put it there.
And when it's eradicated...
You flip it over to that.
Yep. And finally is the player draw and discard pile. So the player deck will go there. And any cards that are played will go into the discard pile.
Player deck those backs.
And over here is a little helpful, what is it? The cheat sheet on what you can do on your turn.
Right.
So that's pretty much the board.
Okay, now we'll get into a little more specific setup on getting ready to play the game. So, like we said during the intro, it's a 2 to 4 player game. Personally, I think it's more fun if you have 4, but there are levels of difficulty. So, 2, 3 is fine, but I like this one with 4.
Yep. For setup, we want to put the board in the middle of the table, obviously. After that, there are roll cards that each person or each player is going to get. There's 5 or 6 different ones. Maybe 7.
You can either pick or you can go random.
Yeah. So either way you do it, everybody's going to get a card and an associated little person. Meeple, not really a meeple, a pawn. So you take the pawn color that matches your character, and all the pawns will be placed in Atlanta to begin with. Also, we want to put a research station in Atlanta, so that's one of the starting things. So Atlanta has a research station and all the pawns.
That's what a research station looks like.
Alright.
The outbreak marker gets placed on 0, and the infection rate marker gets placed on the first spot with the number 2.
Yep. After that are the disease cubes. As you can see, we
have them all bagged up. But if you got 4 players, just you can put somebody in charge of all of them, or you can give everybody in charge of a color. The board's kind of, the colors are kind of grouped, so if you are sitting around a table like this, you give like this person the red and this person the yellow. That's just an idea. But one person can do it all too. So
After that, you want to take the 6 epidemic cards.
So these are the epidemic cards. You're going to remove them from the player deck. You're going to take all those out to start.
Yep.
Then you're going to take the player deck, which consists of these cards, which is basically the city cards, all the names of the cities, and these types of cards, which are basically special abilities. And you're going to shuffle these up.
Yep. So you create the player deck by shuffling all the normal, everything except the epidemic card. And after you've created that and shuffled it, you are going to deal players cards, and depending on the amount of people, a 4-player game has 2 cards, a 3-player game has 3 cards, and a 2-player game has 4 cards. So you'll deal everybody cards. After that, then you will divide the
Player deck.
Yeah.
Into this gets based on the level you want to play to. This makes a difference. So this is where the epidemics get put back in. And so an easy game you play with 4, a normal game you play with 5, and a epic or heroic game you play with all 6. So the way that works is you just take, after you've dealt the initial player cards out, you take the player deck and you separate this into the number of piles based on the level. So you're either going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then separate all of them into 4, or 5 or 6, depending on your difficulty level. Once you do all that, then you'll take the epidemic card and put them in each pile. Or let's say we're playing heroic, 1 would go in each pile. If you were playing the normal, you'd only have 5 piles, etc., etc. Then you take these and you shuffle them, and then you shuffle them all up, and then you start stacking them by pile. Don't mix them all up again after you do that, because
the intention is to, however it's divided, there's going to be 1 epidemic per
pile. Yep. You still don't know where it's going to come out, so...
But it's better than getting hit by 6 epidemics. So.
Exactly.
Alright, after you do that, you will shuffle the infection deck cards. So that's the infection deck. You just shuffle it up, and you create that deck. Put it there.
Just see, they're kind of they're the names of the cities also, but as you can see, they're orientated horizontally instead of vertically. So that's another way you can tell. It's not that big of a deal.
All right, and then before we actually start the game, there's one other important thing that we have to do, and that's place the initial disease cubes. And the way this works is you will draw 3 of these infection cards. So the first 3 are Cargo, Osaka, and Karachi. So what you will do with these 3 is each of these cities get 3
cubes.
3 cubes. So hard to see upside down.
What do we got?
Cairo's there.
Oh, I got you first.
Yeah. What is the Karachi? There we go.
And then
Osaka.
And notice that the cards are colored based on what type of disease, or the area, or however you want to call it. It's actually, I guess, the type of the disease that you put on there. Yeah, and Osaka's are red. So notice that the first 3 are 3 cubes. Now we're going to do it again, and it's going to be 2 cubes.
Yep, the 3 that you draw, you'll put in the discard
pile. You have to form an initial discard pile. That's also important.
Alright,
so Bangkok's going to get 2.
So the next 3 are going to get 2 cubes. So Bangkok gets 2. What is that? Mexico City is going to get 2.
And Chicago.
Alright, so I'll put that over there. And then I'll take these and put these in the discard. And then finally, another 3. And these only get 1. So Buenos Aires and LA will get 1, and Seoul
gets 1.
So that's
how you start the initial infection or outbreak. Yep. That's not an outbreak. It's
just the initials. So.
Yeah.
So after you do this, you choose a starting player and you can begin play.
We'll probably go ahead and do the setup again since it's kind of quick, just so you can see it when we actually play.
Yeah.
We'll sit down because that's usually how you don't usually set this one up and then sit down. You kind of do it while everybody's at the table.
Yep. So the game itself consists of turns until the game ends. So you're just going to play clockwise order, and then when either you win or lose, that's when the game ends. So a game turn consists of 3 things. There's do 4 actions, draw 2 cards, and infect cities. The first thing is to do 4 actions. So there's different types of actions you can do. Basic actions is, let's see, to start there's to drive or ferry, which is to move a pawn to an adjacent city. So for an action I could move a person from Atlanta to Miami. That's one action. Then say they want to go to Bogota. That's another action. So that's just the drive and ferry action. You use the lines to determine whether they're adjacent cities. The next thing is direct flight. So direct flight is you play a card in your hand to move to that city. So say Mickey had Chicago in his hand. If he played that as an action,
Which would go into the discard pile.
he could take his pawn and put it directly into Chicago. So you can move to Chicago if you want.
And that would I go, oh look, now I can cure diseases.
The next thing is a charter flight, which is you play a card of the current location to move anywhere. So say Mickey was actually in Chicago and he had the Chicago card, he could be like, I'll do a charter flight, so he discards Chicago. He's in Chicago, so he can go anywhere in the world he wants to. So Mickey decides to go to Hong Kong.
Right.
After that is a shuttle flight, which is at a research station. You can move to any other research station.
So let's see, these guys are all at research stations. It's a different action, but let's pretend that another research station's already built here. I can just automatically move from here to here like that. That's the shuttle flight.
Yep.
And so kind of backwards, but so also for an action, let's say that I had one of these cards that said Beijing, and this wasn't here. I can discard Beijing and build a new research station. So let's see what this card is. Taipei, did I say that right?
Yep. So
Alright.
Mickey's in Taipei.
I'm in Taipei right here. I discard Taipei. I can take the research station. And then build it. You are limited to the number of research stations that they give you, so
Yep. So
it's not like you can ever. I mean, you can run out.
Yep. So that's building a research station. The next action is treat disease.
If I'm standing on that space right there for one action, I can treat a disease, which means I can remove a cube. That's how you treat a disease. So if I was on one with 3, and I was really worried about that, I would be like, okay, I'll take 1, 2, 3, and then maybe move for the last one to set myself up to get close there. So each cube you remove counts as one action. You can also share knowledge. So you can either give the card that matches the city you are in to another player, or take that card from another player. The other player must also be in the city with you.
Alright.
So if we were both...
Where's Bangkok? Right here. So
Okay.
if both of these guys are in Bangkok, and I have the Bangkok card, I can be like, as an action, I'll be like, Mickey, I'm giving you Bangkok.
Don't forget that you both have to be in the city to do that, though, too.
Yep. It has to be the city on the card that's being passed.
Okay, and then the last action you can take is to discover a cure. So, to discover a cure, first of all, you have to be at a research station. So, let's go to a research station. Alright, and the white pawn is standing on the research station, and oh look, their hand,
Wow,
they have 5
red cards.
red cards. And that's the amount of cards you need to cure a disease.
So I just...
Discard them, and then that disease, you take the red marker and you stick it down at this part of the board to know that red has now been cured. Oh, so what happens when they're cured? Well, for one thing, now when I'm over here and I take a cure action, I wipe out all red because there's a cure bin.
So normally it'd just be 1 cube, but when the disease is cured, you knock out all of them in that city. So
right.
Finding a cure is good.
And oh look, blue took an action and did that, and then white moved up here and did an action and cured that. Look, now there's no more red cubes on the board, so red becomes eradicated. Why is eradicated important? Because that means no more red cubes can come out on the board at all.
So anytime one of these infection cards, is drawn, it just gets discarded and nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
So
those are basically the actions that you can take during the game.
One thing is each player can only have a hand limit of 7. So if you ever get more than 7, you have to immediately discard.
That's right. At any time, like if you exchange cards with somebody or whatever, as soon as you hit that 7, you have to get rid of something.
Yep. So after that, I think that's all the actions. So the next thing is to draw 2 cards. So what that is after, like if it's my turn, I do my 4 actions. Now I get to draw 2 cards. So I just get to draw 2 cards from this deck. And they go to my hand.
Okay, and remember, this is the deck that has the epidemics in it, so potentially...
So if it's my turn and I draw my first card, oh no, epidemic.
And you stop right here
just
and resolve this, but you're still going to draw the next card.
Yep, so on the epidemic card, it has all the steps that you have to do. So the first thing is to increase, which is move the infection rate marker forward. So as Mickey's doing, he moves it 1. The next is to draw the bottom card from the infection deck.
Bottom.
And put 3 cubes on that city, and then you discard that city.
So the bottom of the deck was Madrid, so I would take 4 blue...
3.
I think 4. 3 blue cubes and place them on Madrid.
Alright, and then after that is intensify, and this is the slick part of this game, is that you shuffle the discard pile, and then you put it on top of the infection deck. So now all the things that have gotten infected so far in the game, it's a high chance that they're going to get infected again. So after that happens, you
put it on the top of the deck.
Yeah, and then once you do all the steps, you discard the epidemic, and as I was saying, that was the first card I drew, so the second, I'll just draw that and put it in my hand. So that's how you do your drawing. There are cards...
Now you infect.
I was going to talk about the special event cards. I think Mickey shuffled them in.
I did.
So I could have drawn one of these cards. They can be played at any time, and they do not require an action to play them. So.
And when he says any time, it's literally any time. Any person's turn, any time. The only time you can't is once you've started the infection.
You're right.
You can't be like, I want to do a card that would have prevented that from happening. Once the infection phase starts, you have to finish the infection phase. So you can't, if you had a good card and didn't use it,
out of luck.
Yeah, out of luck.
And then another thing is sharing information in this game. It says in the rulebook that you cannot show cards in hands, but you are able to tell people what you have. So, I mean, I guess it's to keep people from doing multiple moves ahead of time if they can see your cards, but I mean you can share information, so it's not a big deal.
A lot of people play with the cards on the table. It's the game can be difficult enough, so I think that's it just depends on how you want to play. I don't think that's big of a deal.
And you're also able to examine any of the discard piles at any time. So after you do that is your third step. So I drew my 2 cards. So now I do the infect cities. So what I do for that is I draw cards from the infection deck equal to the infection rate.
So the infection rate is 2.
So I would draw the 2 cards.
And place 1 cube in Beijing.
Mickey flip Beijing, so Beijing gets 1 cube. And then Buenos Aires gets the cube. Okay, so right now we'll explain what an outbreak is. So,
and this is the part that'll make you lose.
Yeah, so if I'm doing my infection step and I draw this card, which it's Madrid.
Oh, look, it's Madrid.
Now Madrid has 3 cubes on it,
Which is the most cubes you can have in one color.
Yep.
You'll see how if they start spreading around, it's possible for that to happen.
Yep.
Okay, but Madrid is going to burst because of the 3 blues. Not if it was like that, it would just place the blue. Okay, so.
All right, so. I drew Madrid, so I place 1 cube in Madrid.
But I can't, because I have 3. So what happens, Jeb?
An outbreak.
An outbreak. So, first thing, and you'll forget this if you just start calculating, so this is one of the things you can kind of forget. So try to do the outbreak first. Outbreak happened, move that down. Okay, now what's going to happen is you have to place, in every connecting city, you have to place a blue cube.
Yep.
So we'll go down here, and then this line, and then this line, and then this line, and then this line. And see how it's creeping over into the black disease part?
Now, Mickey, if that one burst and, say, New York had 3, and you had to place this cube, what would you do?
Oh, no, there would be another outbreak.
Oh, you can't have 4, so another
that
outbreak.
Would go like that, and then this one would go here, and would come back here. It doesn't go back there.
Nope.
Okay, it can only, during one outbreak, it won't bounce back on itself, but it will hit everything that hasn't had an outbreak yet. So, as you can see, if this stuff starts getting full, you can
It'll lose really quickly.
really quickly. Because one of the lose conditions is if you run out of cubes, too.
Yep, that's a good thing. So I think that's it for...
It's not a good thing.
Oh, well, it's a good thing you mentioned it, because this was the last thing to do on your turn. So after this, everybody just does the same turns over and you try to beat the game. So the game ends, and the first thing is how it ends in defeat, which you started to mention.
Yep, that's one of the lose conditions is if you ever have to place cubes for any of the diseases and you can't because they're all on the board, you lose the game.
Yep. You lose the game if you hit that 8th outbreak, which is the skull and crossbones.
Right. You lose the game if you have to draw 2 cards and you can't.
Yep. So those are all the lose conditions. What's the win condition, Mickey? You just have to have...
remember, cure everything.
4 cures.
4 cures.
Yeah.
Not 4 eradicates, 4
right,
cures.
That's the thing. You can just cure them. You don't have to eradicate everything. If you did that, everybody would lose.
And I apologize if I can't remember everything about the base game. I'm in the middle of a big game of Pandemic Legacy, which I'll touch on a little bit when we do the review. But
right.
so if I sound like I'm stupid a little bit, that might be why, because I'm trying to remember. There's not a whole lot of differences, but it's kind of cool.
All right, so I think that's our everything for Pandemic. So.
Yeah, I hope that kind of made sense. If you stick around and at least watch a couple turns while we go through the gameplay, I think you get it better.
Yep.
Now that we're sitting here explaining it, it's kind of weird to actually try to explain.
Yeah.
It makes more sense once you've seen it a little bit. But if you follow exactly what those play steps are, it is really simple. So you do your 4 actions, draw your 2 cards, do the infection. And
that's your turn.
And that's it.
So I think that's everything. We'll do the video of gameplay. So
Hailey and Kim will be joining us today.
Yep, they're our special guests, and we will try our best not to lose the game because me and Mickey are pretty bad players, bad luck players. So
Hey, we don't have to roll dice though.
that's true.
We have to draw cards.
Yeah, you know. So one quick thing: every time I shuffle a deck, it's always a bad thing happens. So Mickey's going to be cutting the deck every time I shuffle. So. All right, we'll get to the gameplay, and we'll see you there.
All right.